Okay, so first of all, let me explain the rules once again because I see many new faces in the GD right now. So what happens is each person gets like 3 to 4 minutes to give their opening statement and to just really share their initial views and whatnot. And then once everybody is done with that, everybody is not willing to give any opening statements anymore. We open the discussion to all. And once we open the discussion to all, I request you to maintain the dignity of the GD. Please don't make it a mess. Please don't make it a fish market and whatnot. I mean, we've all seen GDs like that, so please don't do that. Next, those who want to speak, they can raise their hands. So I'm not allowing you to unmute yourself. And those who want to speak can please raise their hand right now. The raise hand button is in the participants pane uh, on the bottom right, or if you're on a mobile, it's in the three dot wala, uh, the more menu basically. So please do that. You will get around 3, 4, max 5 minutes to speak. If I feel that you're going out of time or if you're reaching near that time, I will message you privately and just ask you to basically wrap things up. So let's start the GD. The GD topic is basically.
Let Ankita try and raise her hand. Sorry for interruption. Sorry. Ankita is saying let her try and raise her hand. Yeah,
Ankita had some problems last time. So Ankita, if you can't raise your hand, you can private message me. I'll give you a chance to speak. Anyways, the topic of the GD is Article 370. Basically, it has been almost 1 year, or it has been 1 year since it was demolished. So going forward, let me ask who's the first. Let me ask Shlok Rajesh to speak.
Hi everyone. Kashmir is a really sensitive topic, right? And to know the impact of it, I have 4 basic criteria in which I would like to see the impact of it. For me, it is a negative one, and I'll try to explain why I think so. Let's start off with the political part of it. Till now, we do not have a elected legislative assembly in Kashmir. All the major leaders, including Mehbooba Mufti and Omar Abdullah, are yet in house arrest. That is a complete murder of democracy. I'll be touching on these points briefly since time is short, right? Then I'll come to the economical aspect of it. Tourism is one of the main industries of Kashmir, but tourism right now in Kashmir is dead. According to the KCI report, 80% of a drop has been seen in the tourism revenue. Trade is dead. You can barely move within Kashmir or outside Kashmir. So trade virtually is dead in the same aspect. Let's come to the military part of it. I think the military forces in Kashmir had been increased to show that there was to curb terrorism over there. Initially, when you had the section 370 started off, the ratio of number of policemen to people was 1:6. Right now, the ratio is 1:100. Just to understand the gravity of the situation, from the area I come, I have 3 policemen for over 1 lakh people. And right now, the ratio is about 1:100 also. It's like living in a complete military state. Even 2G over there has been restored currently, but I don't think so 2G internet is enough. They've been in a state of lockdown for over a year. For us, we've been in lockdown for 3 months, and I think we all are dead in our houses, right? But they've been in lockdown for over a year, and not a normal lockdown. It's a military lockdown. So when you come out, you've been assaulted, you've been hit, you've been attacked. It is gruesome at best. Now let's come to the education part of it. They say the youth is the future of our country. I doubt the Kashmir youth has the future on that basis because education has come to a virtual standstill. Parents are scared to send the children out. Even in the times of COVID, where most of the learning is happening on the internet, say by 4G or anything, over there's 2G. I think they said that they're not going to be restoring the internet over there because it helps terrorists to grow, but I don't think so that's a fair valuation because if you say terrorists come from Pakistan, Pakistan has internet, so it's not like they cannot communicate. There are many other ways communicate. You don't have to remove internet for the entire population to stop their communication. I think the whole process started out as a process of integration, but it has become a process of alienation. Thank you so much.
That was Brilliant, Shlok. Actually, I didn't expect so many valid and good points to start the discussion off with. I could see some people clapping as well. Before I move on to the next person, I just missed out something. Ma'am has requested each and every one of you who can turn on their videos, please do so, because it helps ma'am judge the body language and whatnot while you speak. Also, those who are speaking are mandatorily required to turn on their video. If you can't do it because of broadband issues or something like that, it's a separate story. But please try to switch on your videos, those who can. Right, moving on, Abhishek PK, please go forward.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go on.
and I think this is a very sensitive issue, and I think a brief history of Kashmir needs to be told before moving into that. Kashmir is different from all the other states because after getting the independence, the British actually divided the India on the basis of religion. There were like 550 princely states, and they were given an instrument of accession. And most of the princely states sided with India, other with Pakistan. But there were few exceptions like Hyderabad, Junagadh, Kashmir, and all. So the thing with Kashmir was it was having a Muslim majority and a Hindu king. And the Kashmir was did not be a part of India as well as Pakistan. They wanted to be as an independent country. And it's at that time when the Pakistanis attacked Kashmir, and the Kashmiri king, sought help from Nehru. So Nehru told that we cannot help you unless you are our country. So they made the agreement, and Article 370 was made. So it actually acts as a tunnel to the Indian constitution. And India, like a country, is a diverse country. It's like, the countries in European Union having a big union. It's like different language, everything. So, more power is given to the people. And I think revoking of this article, scrapping of this article is against the policy of this federalism, because like there are other articles like 371 A to F, where many other states like Nagaland, where the Naga people have special power. So it is at this point that we will have to think whether there are any agendas for the government. They hate some kind of people or so, because all the other special powers for such other states exist only while making this thing in Kashmir. And in Kashmir, they said it's to unify everything. But then recently, in the last year, December itself, they made extra power to this country like Assam by making inner line of permit. We need to have special passport to go to this state. So their arguments are all invalid. And the way this is scrapped is also unconstitutional. There is a in Article 370 Part 3. There is one thing like if at all you have to repeal, you need to have the permission from the Constituent Assembly. But the Constituent Assembly was dissolved, and there no election was conducted in the 6 months, and the president himself authoritarianly did those scrapped those 373, and then scrapped the 370. So it's basically against the principle of federalism. Not even the opinion of a single Kashmiri is taken into account, while making a decision that is going to affect them. Imagine how would it be if the government is going to make a decision which is going to affect our state, but none of our opinion is asked for. So the way it was scrapped, it is unconstitutional overall. And then some of their arguments are that it is to bring development into Kashmir. So why is it to remove the statehood or scrapping this article? Because already like Kashmir is much more developed in Gujarat in many factors like average life expectancy, many factors. And what's the use of doing that? And their idea was to bring peace to the state. And after 1 year, what is the result? I think more people would get rationalized, and I think the situation has got worsened. Their basic human rights are denied. The people are the Kashmir actually became like a physical cell, a physical jail. They're in house arrest kind of situation. They are denied of basic rights like internet, 4G connection. And the motive of the government is also, I don't believe in that, because that's why I earlier told that other states have such special provisions. So I altogether oppose this idea of revoking this thing. And I think it has failed completely. Even after 1 year, there is no progress that's been made in the issue. So that's all I have to say.
Right. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Moving on, we have Arnab. Arnab, you can go home.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay. So I totally agree with the points made by Slok and Abhishek. For me, I believe in every decision there are some pros and there are some cons, and I genuinely appreciate both the fronts. But abrogation of Article 370 and 35A was one of its first kind, because after 1 year there is hardly any positive feedback. All we have is only the cons. Now, what is the reason behind that? See, as a general citizen, what did we expect? We just expected some peace in the valley, so that we can travel there. Even some of us even think to buy some lands there. But did it happen? Actually, no. Then what did we get? We just got two union territories, just losing one state. And what else? Uh, Honestly, the tourism sector is totally crashed, and the apple industry of Kashmir that contributes around 8% of the state GDP of Kashmir. It is around 80 billion INR industry, but unfortunately, it is also the worst affected industry right now. Now, what happened? What is the reason behind that? Because it's just like the other reasons, that master stroke is also totally failed, and it is nothing new in terms of our current political situation. So right now our government cannot do anything, because of right now we are in pandemic fear. So as soon as we are out of this fear, only then government must intervene and genuinely take care of the employment of Kashmiri residents, and industrialization and tourism. Unless Kashmir will be much worse within 1 or 2 years. And whatever the points Slok and Abhishek has mentioned, like the political situation and 2G, I'm not deep diving into that. So at last, I just want to my own experience, because I have two Kashmiri friends in my undergrad college. We have some reservations for those Kashmiri guys. They are right now in Kolkata, and they do not want to go back. Reason number one, because of this unrest, and number two, I think one of them has lost his family because of some militant activities. So that summarizes the whole picture. So that is the current situation right now. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Moving on, Yashasvi, you can go ahead.
Hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Okay. All the kudos to all the speakers. I wanted to. This is a very controversial topic. I believe government did a right job. First of all, I want to tell you the Article 370 was brought in Constitution in 1952, which had no like constitutional voting like Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. That's why in 2019, just by a presidential order, which Abhishek has already told you, it was just scrapped. Before that, again, 370 was very biased towards Ladakh. As we all know, it's a state assembly. So all the states' seats were in Kashmir Valley itself. There were no representative. It doesn't matter even Ladakh people win or lose. Third thing, I want to say that by quota system, SCs, STs, OBCs, and all the minorities had no rights. Before that, if you apply for a government job, you won't be able, you're not eligible for it. So to all those people, those who talk about rights and freedom, secularism, all these questions, you can ponder over it. Second thing, I want to talk about terrorism. This is the major issue which Kashmir, and we all, like from 72 years, it's there. So according to the fact, I will be quoting some facts. It's a very major blow to the terrorist organization. Recently, last month, Hizbul Mujahideen, a commander, was shot dead. There are some facts to support my point of view. In 2019, there were 188 attacks. In 22, there are 120 attacks. Terrorist kill last year was 150. I'm talking about a year. August, they're halfway there, 148 terrorists are killed. Local recruitment in 2017 was 219. Last year, it's what 119, and this time is 74. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs, there is 36% decrease in terrorism. The next point I will focus on development, because that's the major concern we all are looking for. If Jammu Kashmir people are developed, they have money, so things, they won't go to terrorist activities. So after 370, all the schemes which center has, 7 pay, minorities, quota system, and Ujwal, these all schemes will be, working in Jammu Kashmir and in Ladakh as well. So a lot of people will directly benefit out of it. 10,000 jobs have already been created, and 40,000 are on the process. The major interesting fact is that from 72 years, like many of the previous speakers has talked about, the Kashmir Valley was not connected with India. So what is happening recently? Kashmir city is connected to rest of the India. This connectivity will help people to travel along one side. Fourth point, I wanted to focus on tourism. As Abhishek said, yes, due to COVID-19 and still the situation is not solved, so it is being blocked. And one interesting point I want to focus here, that I guess you guys have already seen the Pakistan new map, which has been recently launched by Pakistan. So you can see all the POK area is covered in that map. So all the people, all the Kashmiris, those who thought that Pakistan was there to support them to get freedom, they are completely wrong. Pakistan just want their land, and this has been proved recently. Within a week, Pakistan has launched a map. The one interesting point I want to focus here is that there is a lieutenant governor in union territories. So Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha has been appointed recently. I guess it's again like 1 week news. So interesting thing, his designation, he's a politician. And before like 72 years, no politician, lieutenant governor was there. All are bureaucrats, IS, IPS, members of intelligence. So this is the first time which is happening. So this shows that the government is planning to work in a serious note. And this is not the first time which has happened in India. As one of my speakers told, in Assam, this happened again. So I just want to sum up. I just have 3 questions to all those people who talk about democracy, right, and secularism. First, before 370, minorities had no rights, no. Secondary, Kashmiri Hindus exodus. If you talk about secular thing, what about your views there? And 370 was unconstitutionally in the law. So that's why just a presidential order was enough to scrap it. Thank you.
That was great, SSP. Moving forward, we have Ankita. Ankita, please, you can speak. Yeah, Ankita, are you there? Ankita, we can't hear you if you're saying something. Anyways, okay, I don't think she's online or there's some problem with her. Madhura, you can go forward.
Okay. Hi everyone. Unlike the people who spoke before me, I don't have much data or whatever. I am here just because I wanted to put forward my views. And what I think is that Jammu Kashmir, basically, they had a choice when India was partitioned into India and Pakistan. They basically had a choice, and they wanted to remain independent. And our government, the Indian government, headed by Jawaharlal Nehru, they promised that they would give them some special constitution rights and ask them to be a part of us. Basically, this has to do with the natural borders, as we have seen in our lower classes. We have the water bodies surrounding the south, we have mountain regions and all. And strategically, Jammu and Kashmir was supposed to be part of India to complete our country as one, and we had made some promises to them in the earlier stage. We know there has been a lot of political infiltrations happening, lot of terrorist activities happening, and basically everything comes to a point where it is about power and religion. And I would like to say that what our government, the current government did was not fair to them, because whatever they decided, it should have been discussed with the government that has been formed there already. The people democracy that should have been respected, but everything was scrapped up under the legalities that they are quoting, that they followed, that the government was a minority and the federal government was there. And this 35 subsection 35 of article 370, it can be scrapped only if the government, the current government of J&K supports. Since it was a federal government there, only governor had to sign off, and again we know that's a part of the central government activity. The people, whatever the political transactions that happen, at the end the people are the ones who are suffering. For the past 1 year, we really don't know what's have been happening there. The education system has been totally stopped. The living conditions, already it was worse, and now it's even more worse, and we can't even reach out to them. India is known for solidarity basically. So if there is floods in Kerala or Assam, people are ready to help them. But if something happens in Kashmir, we don't even know. And I'm not saying that whatever move that was made was right or wrong by the government. It's a political move, and if I have to discuss on that, I need more statistics. But I feel in a humanitarian way of speaking, what we did to the people of Kashmir is not fair as Indians. If if it was our aim to be a part of them, it should have been more a friendly move rather than just going out on to find faults with the existing government and making a power impact there. So I guess this is my point. We should have been even more careful or even more planned on what we are going to do, and not disturb the life of people of Kashmir for just for the whole of a year. It's been a year. The anniversary was even floated on the WhatsApps and other social media, and we did not do fair. This is my argument. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhura. That was actually perfectly 4 minutes 30 seconds. So good timing. Anyways, Kumar, Satyam, and then we can go on to Toshif.
Thank you, Karthik, for this opportunity. I would like to add some points that are my point of views. I don't know. Shloka, I was completely agreeing with Shloka points before I came to read an article in the Times of India when I was preparing for my CATs. So when I read that article gave some points that I didn't knew. The points were that the expenses, or the, you can say the the money that is needed by a state. So for all the other states, the 80% of the expenses are carried out by the state government, or the revenue is carried by the state government, and 20% of the revenue is given by the central government. But in the case of Jammu and Kashmir, it was just opposite. 80% of the revenue was given by the central government, and the 20% of the revenue was given by the state government. And that wasn't the only thing. The thing was that the government in Jammu and Kashmir also took the same revenue or same part of the money from other countries like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. I didn't mention it. It was written in the Jammu and Kashmir. It was written in the article. So the government took so much of money, and what the people get in Kashmir should have been more than developed. The Kashmiris people should have get what they are finding for the education or the 4G systems or the internet. They should have got that. But the government of Kashmir did that, and what they did was just, you can say, a corruption. So the money was in the pockets of the government. So, and the central government can't really deal with that, because the government of Kashmir wasn't uh, what ruled by or governed by the central government. So the central government had to make some measures and to govern the people of the Kashmir directly. So they, with the 370 Article 370, they had the power. This government of Kashmir had the power, and they can't just. It's that they can't just governed by the central government. So it was that the central government had to remove the 370 article 370 so that the people can get the benefits of this that was given by the central government to the people of the other states. And also I would like that the underdeveloped states like Bihar that are always um, uh, uh, deal with the floods that in the rivers of Bihar and Assam. So they should get the benefits they deserve. So that's all from my side.
Yeah, I guess it's my turn now. Thank you. So great points, Loka and Abhishek. I totally agree with you, and I actually had prepared those points in my opening statement, but you guys covered it up. So that is what I believe. I have 4-5 points to oppose what uh, Yashasvi said. So first, he told about terrorism, that the terrorism has decreased. So I would like to uh, attend attend your attention. I want your attention towards the anti-terrorist bill which the government passed when in the media it was all about 370. According to this bill, the government can declare anyone a terrorist and lock them up for 2 years without letting them exercise their right to defend themselves. So on one hand, you are telling that they are reducing the terrorists in Kashmir, but on the other hand, they are just declaring anyone a terrorism in whole of the country. One more thing which you told, that the terrorist increase. So the accidental deaths due to a road accident in the month of April were zero. It was a very good thing, but the reason, because of lockdown. Now, if you have 100 policemen after one person, no one in their right mind would ever think of doing some terrorism activities. So that is just a side effect of what is happening of lockdown, and not because what the government did. Third thing you described about scrapping of the 370 just by presidential orders because it was not passed in parliament. Since last, I guess, when the BJP government got re-elected, how many of the bills have been debated actually in the parliament? After 370, there are 5 major bills which I would like to draw your attention, which were passed without any media coverage, without anything. And these are very, very serious things. The first of them is surrogacy bill. Singles, live-in couples and same-sex couples can't have children with surrogacy. They were already denied of adopting anyone, but now they can't even have it with surrogacy. Second is transgender person bill. You have to get yourself a sex change surgery and get into a male or female to be recognized by Indian government as a valid gender. Third is the anti-terrorist bill, which I told you. Government can declare anyone a terrorist. Fourth is the RTI amendment bill. RTI, I found it as one of the main pillar of democracy, but that was scrapped in when the media was covering 370. So now you can't ask the government what they are doing. They can just refuse you. We can't do. And this happened recently with the PM Care Fund. They refused to give out the details. Next one is the FRDA bill. If your bank goes bankrupt, RBI won't be liable. The main example is if Malia goes away with the bank's money, all of us is public money. They are, and the government isn't going to introduce this thing. Next thing about minority rights and Kashmiri Hindus, actually I can't put anything on that because you and we don't know the general situation. Arnav have some Kashmiri friends with him living in Kolkata, so he knows better, but you haven't talked to a Kashmir, I haven't talked to a Kashmir. So I can't really just do it that way, but I guess on a larger note, the actual human rights are being scrapped there. And rather than focusing on Kashmiri Hindus or minority rights, we should focus on in general human rights which are being targeted there. And you can't just punish 100 of people if there are 1 or 2 of terrorists. So if there is 1 bad people in our batch, the professor can't punish just all of us and deny us our basic human rights. So those were the points. And one more thing about the money which Kumar told, that the Kashmir was run by 80% of central government's money. So if government was really so much concerned that it is the case of corruption and it is not reaching to the public, they might have limited the supply of that thing. Like recently, I got to read in an article that the central government owes around 40,000 crores of GST refund to the state government. The state government asked central government to release that money so that they can tackle the pandemic situation well. But still now, after 4 months of this pandemic, the government hasn't released that money. So they are keeping it with themselves. So they could have done that for Kashmir. They could have freeze those funds and not give it to Kashmir. They were giving, so there might be something in which they are also in. And I would wrap this up by this thing that government, and I have observed this behavior of the government. They are passing a bill just for media coverage. There is nothing in that. They are passing just the bill of media coverage, and under that, they are passing the bills which actually they are benefiting from. Like they did 370 and the 5 bills which are mentioned, which actually only benefited government and not the public. They passed it on without any debate. That's it. I'll rest it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Toshif. That was brilliant. Moving on, we have Vikrant. Vikrant, you can go ahead. And please turn on your video if you can.
Yes, I am.
Oh.
Hi guys, I'll try to keep my points short. I'm actually very tired today. Okay, starting with the points. Let's dive into the history a little bit first. I agree with the point Abhishek said. Okay, so when Kashmir was not a JNK, was not a part of India, it was the last king to ascend the throne was Maharaja Hari Singh. Okay, and when Pakistan attacked Kashmir and he came to ask help to Nehru, that as Abhishek said that okay, we need protection. So Nehru said yes, we can, but until unless you are a part of us as in India, we cannot do that. So he agreed to become a part of India, and an instrument of accession was signed. In that instrument of accession, there were many conditions which were set by Maharaja Hari Singh. I hope I'm audible. My connection is showing.
Yeah, you're audible. Go on.
Yeah. So in that in that accession document, certain conditions were laid by Maharaja Hari Singh. So the condition was that we, JNK, will become a part of India with the condition that we will retain our statehood. Okay, we will have our own constitution and we'll retain our own flag. So Nehru said, okay, that will do. And from there, Article 370 was inserted in the in the constitution to safeguard the rights as promised to the last king, as they were the conditions. So basically, it is not unconstitutional. Somebody said that that it was unconstitutionally inserted. No, it was not. It was the conditions laid by the last ruler to become a part of India, and they need to be honored. See, for example, you promise someone something when you were making a deal, and then after 40 years or after some years, you are like, no, we are not going to honor this anymore. So that's kind of wrong. If we are going from a baby's eye view, and also which is true, that this is fundamentally wrong. Another thing, I'll dive into some sensitive issues. See, we can have opposing views, and please don't be offended. Someone who has opposite views. My intention is not that. See, as it's a public knowledge that BJP is a pro-Hindutva party, and it has its origins from RSS. RSS is a staunch supporter and a public, publicly it says that in India should be a Hindu Rashtra, and it's publicly opposed to the Muslim community, and the whole BJP cadre comes from the RSS. So when someone who has, maybe the front which was put in by the BJP government for the scrapping the Article 370 was not that that we are going against Muslim majority or anything like that, because if they would have put it, they would never won the elections or something like that. The front that was put here was we need to end terrorism, we need to bring development. Okay, every good promises which they have put in the last years. But see, when it's a public knowledge that you are opposed to a section of people, and you go and you bring clamp down and restrict them, so obviously your intentions will definitely be doubted. Okay, will definitely be second guessed. And now coming to the part of terrorism, as many, because that's the main issue Kashmir is always talked about in the media and everywhere. Toshil said a point. See, if 5 people are wrong, the teacher can't punish the whole class of 80 people, So you can't just say just because to weed out the 5% and clamp down the 80 people. That will only bring more oppression. Okay, it will only bring more revolt. That is not the way to do it. And it's not like, there are 100 people in Kashmir, so all 100 are terrorists. Okay. Yes, I definitely agree. There is a bad section of people. There are a good section of people, but it is everywhere. There are bad people and there are good people everywhere. You need to act accordingly. You cannot punish 80 for the mistakes of 5. So, and it's not gonna be.
I think we lost Vikrant. Wait.
Sorry, I just got kicked out. Yeah. So it's not going to weed out terrorism. Why? Because a lot of terrorist activity is happening because of the support of few people. Okay, they have some connections or they have something there. By doing this, you are only encouraging the dissent against India, against the government people. Okay, you are agitating the dissent. If you are gonna go and beat a stick on someone, they are not gonna listen to you. They'll only oppose more. And you are doing this forcefully. The way you have done it is very wrong. You cannot imprison people. You cannot imprison the government leaders for a whole year. Like, whole democracy has been, thrashed by the NDA government right now. So coming for the development, there has been no development at all. Kashmir has reeled for the 4,000 crore economical loss. Children haven't gone to school in only for 2 weeks to 22 days. That's the maximum children have attended school in the whole year. This is not going to bring development. This is not going to bring development. If you want to bring development to a place, you need to take people in confidence. The people need to choose you democratically by their wish. See many world examples. America goes and has invaded so many countries. That we will bring peace to your country. It does not work that way. That the people who are there, what they want, it will happen. Yes, in the political scenario also, JNK, that happened. I'm not saying that the leaders were, very good or something like that. They did many. The leaders elected there also were not very good. They did bad things. But the point is, the people are choosing there. You cannot climb down. They will understand. They will democratically choose. You cannot just go, like America invaded Syria, America invaded Afghanistan, forcefully establish a government. See what happens. This is not going to be. And coming to the Kashmiri exodus, see, I'll state my opinion. Even that was not
Vikrant,
correct.
Vikrant, I'm extremely sorry to.
From one place is not correct.
Vikrant, I'm extremely sorry to interrupt, but you are massively over time.
I'll just conclude in 20 seconds, please.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah. So my stance is that was also not correct, but it is very controversial. And there is the controversy is, I'll come back to it with more points next time. It's like it was done by a section of people and not by all the Muslim majority, for which the all Muslim majority was blamed. It was done by a section of people. It was not correct. And it's like Kashmiriyat suffered. Neither the Muslim nor the Hindu, the whole Kashmiriyat suffered is the thing. So it was not a good thing. The way it was done, with the intention it was done, is my concluding statement. Thank you, people. Sorry for taking so much time.
That's not an issue. Vikrant, that was brilliant. Guys, but I think we are now going into, opposing each other arguments, and we're not actually adding much more to the discussion. So finally, Natasha, Karan and Abhishek Singh, if you want to add any more points, I will let you unmute. Natasha, I don't think is there. Natasha, Karan, and Abhishek, if you want to unmute to add points, you can.
Okay, hey everyone. It was an amazing discussion, but I'll be adding something to the background of it, and I think there is one point that we missed, so I'll be building upon that. Let's first see the history of JNK. Vikrant, I think, summarized it pretty well. I'll add a bit to it. 2016, there was a militant leader. Indian government, the central government, considered him a terrorist. I'm not denying that, but he was well loved by the people over there. He had a huge following, right? And in an operation, he was assassinated. Not assassinated. I'm sorry for that word. He was taken down. He was shot. Right? He was like, it was considered a terrorist being shot by the armed forces, like an act of bravery on our central government's part. The whole Jammu and Kashmir, it went against our country. Like they had a curfew for 51 days because that is how much agitated the people there was. 51 days, right? And that is where the whole landslide started. 2015, BJP government was elected. 2016, this incident happened, right? And from then, like, Indian army has been given so much power. Not only Indian army, actually, Indian armed forces, it has been given so much power in that constituency. If the people protest, the armed forces has the ability to take on it as a crime of war. As a crime of war, they can use bombs on them, they can use machine guns on them. What are we doing as a country, and how are we supporting this as a country? This is the background 370 came upon. Then you have Armed Force Special Power Acts. I don't know how many of you know about it, but under AFPA, you can take any person into custody, right, without undergoing a proper judicial trials. There have been so many human rights violations under this, so many. Like Assam Rifles did one, and that is one that we know about. There are so many human. I'm so sorry. I'm a bit emotional about this. Right. So there are so many human rights watchers. I think the United Nations wanted access to that area just to see the human rights violation. Red Cross Society wanted access to the area just to see the human rights violation. And we have so many other organizations who have been dying to get, who have been requesting the Indian government to just let them go in there and see what the situation of people is. And our central government have been denying them. Directly denying them. It's not even in the question, right? And there's a lot of it, but I want to add another point to it, which is very important in today's in present scenario. We all know that the Chinese are attacking us, right? There is a speculated reason for it. The Article 370, it was internationally recognized, right? It gave J&K special provision, and it was internationally recognized. China also recognized it. But after the scraping of Article 370, right, internationally, India has lost that privilege. So now Chinese can attack us, right? So I think this is a point that we missed, and I have a lot to say on human rights violation in J&K, but I'm just going to limit myself here. And how can we forget Asif, the Unnao case, and those people who stood with those rapists? How can we forget that? So you can only imagine what the people over there would be going through. You can only imagine what would be there on their mind. You can only imagine why the protests are happening and why they are so agitated by it. And now you're applying Article 370 on them. I mean, what are we trying to do? And yeah, internationally, India is recognized as an occupying force on J&K. Like, we are doing to them what Britishers did to us. I mean, I guess that is how trauma goes through the family, because we are failing at it. They came to us for protection, and we are failing at it. So yeah.
Thank you, Natasha. That was wonderful and emotional as well.
That was very emotional.
Abhishek Singh, I see you have muted yourself, so I don't really know if you want to speak. But Karan, if you want to, I'm asking you to unmute if you have anything to add, else we'll open it up for everyone.
Yes. Okay. So good evening, everyone. So I want to start with one statement: one nation, one flag, and one parliament. And I want to reinforce it by one historical fact that Kashmir was a part of India, or let's not use word India, or use we can use word Bharata. which existed for last 25,000 years or more, and this Kashmir area has been part of the Bharata since long back. So I don't think there is any reason for the another state or another flag or another parliament for that matter of concern. And related to terrorism and all this issue related to Kashmir area, it all started after the partition. Before partition, Kashmir area was peaceful area. We all know Haseen Wadia and all those Bollywood cliche statement used for Kashmir Valley. So that thing has actually started after the annexation of Pakistan. And another thing about terrorism, it's being funded it is being funded or I'm say alleged by funded by ISI, and it all started in a Kashmir Valley, and okay, I got it. Okay. क्या बोलना था यार?
Karan, anything more to add?
No, I forgot my point. I was actually going to add one point. Very interesting. I want to reinforce Yashashi's point about terrorism, the decrease in terrorism. It is actually very correct statement used by him. This article was This article was uploaded on by the print media in a recent past, and it has been said that since last year, 92 militants has been added, and to the counter opposite to that, 162 has been killed, and to that extent, the main point which they focused on was the curbing of stone pelters. The amount of stone pelting cases has been reduced since last year. This has a significant impact on the militant recruitment. As we know, the first start at the stone pelting, and later they criminally increase their rank to terrorism, and this is all funded through the to our neighbors on the opposite side of the border. And the other thing, related to the curbing of all the rights related to human rights and the democratic rights. We all know we are under quarantine for last 6 months to control a pandemic, which is a very real threat to all of us. But terrorism is also a threat to the Kashmir Valley. So they all are quarantined so that threat can be eliminated for once and for all, and later open a new environment for development to come. And the humanitarian point of view, does those militant or the Kashmiri people actually honor the human rights for the other people or minorities, or they walk around with AK-47s and grenade they use against us, not us, like they use against the people of Kashmir. So if the military, which is under the Securities Act in India, has been given power to use them constitutionally. So using those power does not question the human right act. Does not have question human rights. And that's it.
All right, Abhishek, I think you can speak, and then we'll open it up.
So this Article 370, the whole box was about terrorism, to remove terrorism. But if after the removal of Article 370, what we got was unemployment. Like government is doing work, like as one of my friends mentioned, 10,000 jobs have been created, but more than 5 lakhs people lost their jobs. Some and people living in Kashmir are not rich. They are either middle class or lower middle class. So they need basic day to day. They are facing difficulty to fulfill their basic day to day needs.
like basic roti, kapda, and makan. So the terrorists can give money in return of terrorist sector because everybody need to feed himself. So there are like chances, huge chances that terrorist organization can provide money to those families and ask them to join a terrorist organization. So an empty stomach can make a person do anything. Okay. And if I talk about, if nobody talked about the land thing, like people now can buy land and they can live there. Earlier also, the land was available, but only for industries. But why the people would go to such area which is not developed, where we don't have internet, we don't have basic facilities of food and shelter, and Kashmir is not known for its industries. It is basically known for its beauty. And if the people, it is already overpopulated, and if people would go to Kashmir, then it would become more overly populated, which would create an environmental imbalance in the Kashmir itself, which can be seen, which can have a major effect in other parts of the country as well. So I think the Kashmir is known for its beauty. So I think it should be left with that thing only.
Thank you so much. We'll now open the discussion for everyone. Some people are chatting about some points they want to say. Some people are, points. But before we do that, just let me recap the discussion. We talked on Kashmir being a sensitive issue. Trade and tourism is now dead in Kashmir, probably due to COVID and because of the Article 370 as well. Military and police have a Raj in Kashmir. 2G is restored, but someone said that internet is not a problem. Military lockdown in Kashmir, education is on a virtual standstill. Kashmir is a different state. British divided that state basically. Someone was very strong in saying that Article 370 removal is a failed idea and a failed thing to do. Apple industry is the worst affected, and Toshef, I believe, talked about other articles that have been passed after 370 but did not get much media coverage. Someone said that Pakistan only wants territory and does not want to help its Kashmiris. The last person, Abhishek, he said that land is available for companies, but it's not developed enough. So no company went there basically. That's just my recap, but if I missed any point, extremely sorry to you all. You can mute yourselves. You can, unmute yourselves now. And we'll open the discussion, but please maintain the dignity of the GD.
Guys listening, all of you, I respect each and everyone's views. I just want to add 3 more points which might be contradict. First, according to the stats, 40% decrease in youth involvement. Right? If this youth is not going to join these terrorist group, obviously they will be, they will be utilizing their time in productive things. Second thing I want to say that this status is not permanent. So it's not about, for the rest of this whole time, the status will be appointed. As the things will improve, as it did in Assam, the statehood will be given back to them. The third thing, I guess Abhishek mentioned that people will go, what's the use of it? When people travel, they take investment along with them. And I can give you example of my hill station, Nainital as well. Cities around here, people from Noida, Delhi have came over here and brought a lot of investment that will, directly or indirectly will help the local people there. And that's why they will, develop themselves and all the things will, be just a past story. Okay.
I would like to add a
Yashasvi, I'm so sorry for the name. So I was in Northeast for I have been in Northeast for most of my life, and I was in Mizoram in my standards 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? So Mizoram is a place where security is a given, right? The kids over there would just be around, and it's a very beautiful place. One of my friends just told me that my mother has started saying that, girl, you need to stay at home because the men from the north are coming. She literally said that. So what I'm trying to point out here is, getting land over there might not always be a good thing. There's a chances of it going very south. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, to counter this, if
I
we
wanted to
had one
add
more
two, three
point.
things to the.
Abhishek first and
Okay,
then Shlok.
can I
Abhishek first.
talk?
Uh, Abhishek Singh, I
Yeah,
meant.
one
Singh.
thing someone pointed out here that. Okay.
Okay, go on. Go on. Go
No,
on.
I think it
Hello?
was Abhishek PK.
Hello, anyways, go on. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the first thing that I have to say is regarding that this article was made in a constitutional manner, and there was a UN resolution for a plebiscite following certain condition which both India and Pakistan failed to do. So they have many historical points, and the only constitutional way they can remove this was use with the support of the Constituent Assembly, which was dissolved, and no election was held even after 6 months. That is the time limit. I think once you dissolve an assembly, in 6 months you need to have an election. And one point I have to contradict of Kumar Satyam was that Kumar Satyam said that the central is providing a lot of funds, so they had to, do it with their own support. And I contradict that because that is where the principle of federalism is broken. If I have some idea on a particular land and I doing that without any, anyone's consent in mind, without even asking them, which I believe is correct, which they may not be believe that is against the federalism. And the reason why we also condemn this unconstitutional act is that it has very far-fetching consequences. Like, when Indira Gandhi died and the Sikh genocide was happening, many people normalized it like when a big tree falls, the ground shakes. It's as a usual response. Such normalization led to a big tragedy. So here, even in the name of hyper-nationalism or whatever thing, when you are not condemning strongly at the earliest to an unconstitutional thing, the far consequence is that tomorrow anything unconstitutional can be done. Our constitution can be modified or anything can be done. So such things, at the earliest, it should be condemned. And regarding the other, Karan Yole said something like, one country, one parliament or something. My idea is that like all the other countries in the world are, small country with small population. And India actually could have been like 15, 20 countries, linguistic, many variety. So India is more like like European Union, a union of lot of states. So this decentralization or giving this, power to all the states only would help to keep the diversity. And regarding this, once the ethnicity or in the name of just one thing, if you dissolve the Kashmir, the hypocrisy or the doubt, like, is it because following the pro-Hindutva stance comes because there are other provision like 371 A to F to all the other states like Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Assam, etc. In Nagaland and all this Naga people have a certain power. Not even the other Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha member can decide. Only those Naga people can decide. So such special acts are there for many other states. So that is a hypocrisy that I want to say. Why then only this Kashmir, that too in an unconstitutional way?
Just
sorry.
to counter one or two points to counter
Vishek and
I think it was Shlok.
Shlok, go ahead.
I just had one or two points I wanted to counter Yashasvi on. So firstly, Yashasvi said the thing was constitutional because of the presidential rule. Okay, let me just tell you one or two things. I think BJP's agenda since its formation, one of its agendas has been to scrap Article 370. I think for them the stars aligned perfectly at this time because the elections, they had delayed it. The election supposed to happen 1 year before the actual scrap happened. So they delayed the elections, due to which the governor was in charge over there, who was part of the central government. So it was very easy for them, and all this happened overnight. Overnight itself, they made the government sign a statement, sent it to the president. The president at night itself signed the statement, and next day it was passed without even a debate in the parliament. One of the biggest and most historic bills in the parliament did not even be debated. And when I say historic, doesn't mean good. The impact of it is so profound and yet it was not debated. That is really bad for any kind of democracy. Any democracy is basically of the people, by the people, for the people, but here the people weren't consulted. That is absolutely shambolic. People often say that Kashmir is like a mini Switzerland. I completely deny that. I've been to Switzerland, I've been to Kashmir. Kashmir is nowhere near Switzerland, because in Switzerland you do not have terrorism rampant. You have infrastructure which helps you here. I can tell you for a certain fact that I'll give you my personal example. When I was going to Kashmir, my flight on the last day, I was definitely going to miss my flight because they had a lockdown on that day for no reason. They have lockdown in Kashmir almost every 3 days, and that is not a state you want to be living in. Why would a tourist come if he has a constant threat of maybe missing his flight or getting injured in a protest or any sort of thing? Yashasvi also spoke about minorities getting the right to that. I think as a country, India shouldn't talk about minorities because in India, minorities are always sidelined historically.
Loka, minorities, constitution gives some rights to minorities. I was just saying that in before 370, the minorities there had no right to. I am talking about the minorities. Like, see, we have quota system in every exam, be it MBA, be it IITs or anywhere. So this system was not followed there. Sorry. So if you are talking about human rights, fundamental rights, what about those people? Ladakh was totally cut off. Their political representation was not an issue for anyone. Why don't you speak about that thing? From 72 years, people are talking about being safe. From 72 years, there is no solution. What about that?
I totally agree with you. Yashuji, I totally agree with you. For me, my personal opinion is that abrogation of Article 370 and 35A is totally apt, but the implementation was wrong. The implementation was totally failed. That is the point. And you told about that POK is now added in Pakistan's map. So do you think it is related to that abrogation? I mean, we all know China has technically forced Pakistan to do that. So there is nothing to do with that abrogation.
Okay, to add on to your points here, I have something to tell. Natasha, can I talk?
Madhura, go on. Madhura.
Okay, so what I want to tell is all these discussion based on whether 370 is right or wrong. What I feel is whatever it is, we didn't follow democracy while implementing the same. We know for 1 year the whole state has been blocked. We don't know what's really happening there. But what if the lockdown has been taken down? What if people are allowed to free? Do you think there won't be any kind of repercussions when people come out of this? Was this the right way to implement whatever to bring the whole country into one single piece? I know the constitution, having a separate constitution, having a separate flag, this might appeal against the nationalist feeling we have, but still we have to think about what will happen. It's not just a short-term thing. It's not just about making good of the promises you made to people. It's not just about the election manifestos you had. It's about seeing where the country will be in, say, 5 or 10 years after this particular law has been passed. The major democratic leaders were taken under house arrest. They were not given any representation, and people were not really given any chance to think about it. The people of state Kashmir, the whole thing changed overnight, and they really wouldn't be able to take it. That's the thing. Whatever I can understand where Yashasvi is coming from about the people, minorities there in that particular state, they were oppressed and all. But everything is different in democracy. It's not just like I have a power, I'm going to implement it overnight. My point is that we'll really have to think about where our country is going to be after these lockdowns. This 1 year of extended lockdown has been taken, and people really need to adjust. And they have been a separate entity for these many years. It's not going to be easy taking them into our country at the first place. So I think this is my point.
Guys, before anyone else speaks, before anyone else speaks, I'll give you maximum 5 minutes. So 2-3 speakers more, and then we can end it.
So okay, I'm just stating a fact here about the map.
Add few points to this conversation.
Okay, Kumar, then Karan, then Natasha. Kumar, then Karan, then Natasha.
Coming to the topic that what effect it happened during the 1 year of the abrogation of the 370. So yeah, during the 1 year, it's really a year. We can't say that it's completely a year, because 6 to 7 months we are in a lockdown, so we can't say that it's a complete year. So the major changes can be made. So, but yeah, in a long run, we can see the consequences can be different. Yeah, development can be made. Abhishek Singh put some points that industries will go there. Why industries will go there? Because it doesn't have a market, or it's only for tourism. So industries will go there because it's a growing market. It needs to development, and it's a growing market. So industries have to visit such places where they can make things good, or they can work for the development of the people. Also, they said that employment in the Kashmir is more. So employment is no, talking about employment, the country is facing it, bro. So that's not the point that only Kashmir is facing. Also telling that it's unconstitutional that the abrogation of 370 is unconstitutional. So it was also mentioned during the signing of the agreement that when the government feels that it's okay to remove the special status of the Jammu and Kashmir, they can abrogate the special status and make it the country for that, make a part of India. So it's not that it's unconstitutional. Also, coming to Natasha's point that terrorist to the Indian government killed someone or shot someone dead, and it was curfew in Jammu and Kashmir. So yeah, coming back to the point, when Afzal Guru was hanged, and it was by the Pranab Mukherjee, president of India. So then also the Kashmiris protested, but that doesn't mean that the Afzal Guru wasn't the right person or wasn't a terrorist. Everyone knows that he was a terrorist, and he was just got the punishment for bombing in the parliament. So that doesn't make that because people support that doesn't mean that the government can't punish the guilt. So that's also the point. And yeah, that's all from my side.
Right, Karan and then Natasha.
Okay, so I want to counter Natasha and Abhishek Singh. Natasha said that point about Mizoram, her friend's mom saying that the North Indian people are coming in Mizoram, so she should not her friend should not go out of her home. Being from Maharashtra, one of the five most progressive state, and being I've lived in Pune and Mumbai. I want to make it. It is an actual fact that Maharashtra was not built by only Marathi people. It was built by Gujarati, Rajasthani, and all the other southern Indian state and a North Indian state. So influx of people is actually a good thing for a state progress. So that point, and Abhishek saying that people won't come in the state as there are no facilities. The government is actually working for that fact. And there was a recent inauguration ceremony which was conducted by Prime Minister about Jammu University, which was recently started there, and the education can move forward from that point. And Shlok say there's a constant lockdown in that state. But what might be the reason for that lockdown, or is it just that a government thought आज lockdown होता है तो कर लो lockdown? There must be a reason for that. So the reason which I think is that is the growing separatism and terrorism in a particular state. And as most of us, and I'm guessing that all of us has been to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. We all know those people are very sweet people, especially the Ladakhis. They're very good people, and we have no hatred towards them, or we have no any rancor towards them. So imposing lockdown as a measure to curb their right is not a valid point on the standpoint of government of India. Thank you.
Yeah, Natasha.
Yeah, okay. So I was going to just state a cold hard fact. Someone said that Pakistan is showing POK as a part of
yes.
their map. Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing is that internationally, India's and Pakistan's map are much different than what is shown in our coursework, like what we have always seen, and it has been for a while, right? So this was the fact. Now I've been questioned twice, so can I answer, Karthik, or
Just,
go on,
Natasha, one thing, like, what was your point? Like, what was
I
the
was
point?
just stating this fact. That's
Okay.
it. Like, this is what I was doing. Yeah, that's it. But now,
Okay.
like, Satyam, I think, and Shlok, who was the second person? Karan, yeah.
Karan.
So, Satyam, I do not condone their sympathy for the militant. I don't at all, right? But, I'm just trying to make you understand the state of mind they're going through, right? You cannot oppress them like that, whatever their reasons be. And it's a whole, it's the whole group, it's the whole people of that state who felt that way, right? I'm just trying to make you understand that I'm not condoning their actions at all. First thing. Second thing is, what is that? Yeah, the influx can be a good thing and a bad thing. I agree. I've lived in Pune for 1 year. I've lived in Mumbai as well. So I've seen the situation of those places, and they are really good, really safe. But Mizoram, like, you cannot compare two geographical places because the cultural difference are immense. Mizoram consists mostly of the tribal people, right, who have converted into Christianity, and the situation over there would be much different. And northeastern people are discriminated against in north, anything. Like anything, people call them chinky, Chinese, whatever.
Natasha,
the situation is really bad.
Natasha, this discrimination happen all over the India. Even South people discriminate the North Indians. You have heard about
I agree.
Maharashtra people
Guys,
reading Biharis and all.
guys.
So,
First of all, I think it's time to end the discussion. We can go on and on about this topic. I didn't know people were such enthusiastic about this topic and such emotional about it. But there's a time limit to everything, and I think, as ma'am said, we can agree to disagree on this one. So, Natasha, any final statements, and then we'll close quickly, please.
I had one
Yeah,
sentence to
that's
say.
it. That's about it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Since we don't have time, and I didn't participate in the GD because I have no energy left to speak more. That's why, because I was tired. Let's everyone who's here, please, we'll have this discussion very nicely, peacefully by sitting in college once we are there. I would love to, if you all are ready. We could easily, peacefully have this with ample time to make each other understand and disagree or agree on some points. See, the worst that should happen, we are educated people, is we should agree to disagree. That's it.
Thank you,
That's
Vikrant,
it.
for that. But now we are ending this GD. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Please don't leave the meeting just now. Please wait around for like 2 minutes more.